All right, we are ready for set 13 of our vocabulary. So this video, we're just going to go through all of the words and the definitions very quickly. You can always use this video as an introduction to our words for the week or to study. We won't have a quiz on this for 2 weeks, so you have plenty of time. You guys will also be able just to use this as on Quizlet. You guys at this point should know all of the tools that you can use to study on Quizlet, and there will also be a Quiziz that you'll be able to have access to study. If you want to make your own flashcards, that's fine too. But you always have this video if you need to. So let's go through our words. So this week our first one is accommodate. And accommodate means to have or find room for or to do a favor for. So when you accommodate somebody, you're kind of going out of your way, making an effort for them to make sure that they're included, to do a favor for them. So maybe if you have a family member that has a food allergy and they come over for Thanksgiving, maybe you would accommodate them by having options of food that they can eat. I'm sure you may have had to make accommodations for your siblings. So maybe if you share a room with your sibling, that would be accommodating your sibling or your family that come to stay. So it's doing a favor for making sure that you have the room for them. Accommodations can also be like a hotel could have certain accommodations. So things that they would offer to help you out. Aggressive. So when something is aggressive, it's ready to attack or start a fight, acting in a hostile way, bold or active. So aggressive just means kind of in your face. Like if you see the picture of the dog over here, an animal or a person can be acting aggressive. It doesn't have to be negative. So when we think of aggressive, sometimes we think, like an aggressive animal or somebody that's trying to start a fight, but it can also just mean that you're going after something that you want. You could go after your goal in an aggressive way. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a negative thing. It's just kind of a strong, bold move. Bask. Bask could mean to relax where it's pleasantly warm, to enjoy warm or pleasant feelings. So maybe if you're laying on the beach, you're basking in the sun. I don't know if any of you have reptile or like snakes or lizards as pets, or if you've been to maybe a zoo or someplace where they have those, they'll have like the heat lamps and they'll bask underneath the heat lamps, right? Because they're cold-blooded. So basking is just kind of relaxing where it's nice and warm. Carcass. It's the dead body of an animal. Unfortunately, if you've been on some of the country roads or if you've been on the interstate, you've probably seen these before. Obviously, like hunters would see these. If you've watched nature documentaries, so like things on National Geographic where they talk about, animals hunting another animal or an animal eating a carcass. A carcass just means the dead body of an animal. Conceal. So when we conceal something, it means we keep something from somebody, to keep a secret, to hide it. So that could mean like you conceal your thoughts, you conceal a secret. And it could also mean that you're concealing something physical. So you might conceal Easter eggs, right? Hide Easter eggs around, or you might conceal a present that you've bought for someone. Flail. Flail means to strike out by swinging wildly or to thrash about. If somebody was to push you into a swimming pool and you didn't know how to swim, then you probably would be flailing your arms around. I can tell you from experience right now, having a toddler, that when I do something that Ruby does not want to do, sometimes she'll flail around where she'll like throw her arms and legs out, kind of almost like have a tantrum. But it can also connect to sports in some ways, to flail. Gorge. Gorge has two meanings, and they're pretty different. So the first one is a narrow passage between two steep cliffs. So you can kind of see that in the picture. That could be gorge. That's a geographic term, or it could mean like you gorge yourself. So you eat too much food. I'm sure we've all been there at some point where we've gorged ourselves on some of our favorite foods and then maybe don't feel very well afterwards. But two very different meanings for that word. Morsel. So a morsel is a small amount, especially of something good to eat. Another way to describe it is a tidbit. If you've ever had a chocolate chip, there are some brands of chocolate chip that even call them like morsels. So That's kind of the picture that I always have in my head. It's just a small amount of something. Protrude, it means to stick out or to project. I think this is a perfect example of that. A nail sticking out of a board or a wall. Maybe if you were trying to walk past somebody's desk and they have their legs stuck out, their legs are protruding from, their spot. So it just means to stick out. Ripple, to form small waves or a movement like a small wave. I'm sure you could probably picture maybe a pond or a lake, and a fish pops up, and then there have like the little waves, the little ripples that come off of that. Or even if somebody was to jump in a pool and splash, there might be ripples, but we think of those small little waves that come off. Slither, we got a lot of animal things tied here, right? To move in a sliding way to side motion of the body. The best example I can think of is a snake, the way a snake moves, right? A snake slithers. Sluggish, I like this word. Sluggish means lacking energy, not active, slow moving. So you might consider, if we're going to stick with our animal theme, sloths to be very sluggish. They move very slowly, rather, not quickly. If we went back to gorge, if you gorge yourself on a lot of food, then you probably will be moving pretty sluggishly. Right now, if you're watching this on Tuesday when we just came back from break, then you're probably a little bit sluggish this morning when you had to wake up early. So lacking energy, not very active, moving very slow. A snout. A snout is the nose or jaw that sticks out of the front of certain animals' heads. So you might think of like a pig snout, a horse snout. If you have a dog or a cat, the little part that sticks out, dogs more than cats really, but that sticks out of the front of their face, that's just their snout. Taper. Taper means to make or become less wide or less thick at the end, to lessen gradually. A thin candle. When I think of tapering, I think of, it starts big and then it goes small. So almost like an upside down triangle. So if I was to make that with my cursor right now, so like if this was the top, it would go in a lot. So to taper down, so to get less and less and less. If you could imagine, maybe if you were to turn your faucet on at home and then you turn it on really, really fast and you slowly push the handle back, the water would taper. It would slowly become less and less and less. Our last one is visible, and it's just able to be seen. So if we're thinking of our other one, the opposite of visible would be concealed. So it would be put away. So if something is visible, it's not hidden. It's easy to view. So I think our words this week, I'm hoping that you've heard most of them in some way, shape, or form. They should be fairly easy, but if you need to watch this video over again, you can, or you know where to study for the rest of them. But make sure that you are studying and being ready for that test.